October 5th will mark the 60th anniversary of the James Bond franchise. As an avid fan of the series, I have decided to commemorate that date by reviewing all of the films from my least favourite to my most favourite. Please be warned, these reviews will involve spoilers. Also, I will be including the 1967 James Bond spoof Casino Royale and the unofficial 1983 Bond film Never Say Never Again in my rankings. Diamonds Are Forever is the 7th James Bond film. It follows James Bond's investigation into a diamond smuggling pipeline. During his investigations, Bond uncovers a scheme by none other than his nemesis, Ernest Davrow Blowfield, to hold the world to ransom using a giant diamond-generated laser in space. To say that Diamonds Are Forever's plot is not its strong suit is clearly evident. The film clearly goes off the rails when Bond turns, quote-unquote, Tiffany Case. Before then, one can believe that Diamonds Are Forever is a film about diamond smuggling. After Tiffany's turning, however, it becomes a space-based movie, a motif that must have seemed passé even for 1971. I'm sorry, but I refuse to take the giant diamond laser in space seriously. Indeed, one suspects that if the filmmakers had been a little more faithful to Fleming's original novel, they may have ended up with a better film. To make matters worse, the events of the previous film, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, seem to be ignored entirely. I'm not asking for a Quantum of Solace style sequel, but some acknowledgement would have been nice. Instead, all we get is a brief pre-title sequence in which Bond quote-unquote kills Blowfield. Diamonds Are Forever does have its moments, however. The elevator fight can be described as hard-hitting. Bond seems at home in a Las Vegas casino. The car chase through the streets of Las Vegas is exhilarating, the infamous continuity error notwithstanding, and Blofield's revelation in Willard White's penthouse is a stroke of genius. Sean Connery returned to the role of James Bond for Diamonds Are Forever. Sure, he's heavier and greyer, but he's still got that trademark Connery charisma. And he seems to be at home with Tom Mankiewicz' witty dialogue. Also returning to the film is Ernest Davrow Blowfield, this time played by Charles Gray. I would have said that Gray's Blowfield was the weakest in the series, however, he has since been surpassed by Christoph Waltz. The relationship between Bond and Blowfield is an interesting one. Bond seems to show no anger towards Blowfield, despite the fact that he killed his wife, Tracy, at the end of the previous film. It is also interesting to note that Spectre is never mentioned, suggesting that the criminal organisation collapsed following the events of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. One Bond fan has suggested that Bond and Blofeld actually need each other in much the same way that Batman needs Joker.
No, you complete me.
There are two main Bond girls in this film. Tiffany Case, played by Jill St. John, begins as a strong character, but devolves into a bimbo as the film progresses. The scene in which Bond meets Tiffany is actually a highlight of the movie, featuring Tom Mankiewicz' razor-sharp dialogue. Tiffany comes across as sassy and intelligent. It doesn't last, sadly. When Bond tricks her into believing that he is Peter Franks, and Peter Franks is him, she exclaims loudly, "You just killed James Bond." By the end of the movie, Tiffany has degenerated into a full-blown bimbo. The second Bond girl is Plenty O'Toole, played by Lana Wood. Personally, I find Plenty to be one of the most beautiful girls in the series, but her character is poorly written. There doesn't seem to be any point to her. Plenty's a hustler who sleeps with men for their winnings. She picks up Bond and agrees to sleep with him after Bond tips her, quote unquote, a significant amount of his winnings. They retreat to Bond's hotel room, where she soon finds herself being thrown, practically naked, into the hotel pool. The next time we see Plenty, she is floating dead in Tiffany Case's pool. The henchmen don't fare much better either. Most of them come across as your stereotypical low IQ American thugs. Clearly they are intended to be funny rather than menacing. The two main henchmen in the film are Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd, played by Bruce Glover and Potter Smith. Some fuss has been made over the fact that the pair are gay. However, killers like John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Dennis Nilsen were also homosexuals, so it's perfectly plausible. Indeed, there is actually something creepy about Wint and Kidd, though I'd hardly describe them as effective killers. There is a kind of cheapness inherent in Guy Hamilton's Bond movies, and Diamonds Are Forever is the worst of the lot. The production design is dated, though I like Willard White's Penthouse. The gadgets are uninspired. The stunts lack excitement, and the special effects look dated even for 1971. This is exacerbated by the film's campy nature. The scene in Circus Circus and the moon buggy chase are particularly potent examples. Diamonds Are Forever does have its good points, however. The Las Vegas location provides a perfect playground for James Bond. Shirley Bassey's title song is one of the best in the series. And finally, Maurice Binder's title sequence, which mixes diamonds with erotic images of nude women, is fantastic. For the most part, Diamonds Are Forever comes across as a B movie with a big budget. Too much of the film is devoted to cheap gags at the expense of story and character. However, I can also see this film for what it could have been, and that at least makes it interesting to watch. My favourite part of Diamonds Are Forever is the scene in which James Bond uses Marie's bikini as a garrote. It might not be politically correct, especially not now, but it's a pure Bond moment. My least favourite part is the moon buggy chase. Watching Sean Connery whiz around the desert in such a ridiculous contraption is not my idea of an exciting sequence.